Hey guys, welcome back. What we are going to do this week is insert ourselves into a historical photo. Last week I had 4 grading criteria for you with the replace the face. We did feathering, color balance, size, and brightness and contrast. This week we're gonna add 2 more to make sure your picture looks real. I want you to also consider the blur, and I want you to consider the shadow. You might actually have to draw a shadow on the ground. This will be quick and easy and fun, and we're gonna do it just like this. Okay, you guys know the drill by now. This is our 20th assignment together. Come down here, open Adobe Photoshop. I have got 12 historical photos, and I will be putting myself into all of these. They are all different. Some are blurry, some are black and white, some are in color. Each one requires different approaches to insert myself as realistically as possible. So here we go. The first one I have right here is Abraham Lincoln visiting soldiers during the Civil War. I did a little photo shoot where I will be drawing Abraham Lincoln on the battlefield. The first thing I want to do is grab my lasso tool, draw around me, Control C, back to Lincoln, edit, paste. I like to lower the opacity so I can see how big to make it. Let me go to transform, scale. I think I want to be standing back here. That's pretty good. I want this picture to be in black and white, so let me go to Mode, under Image, Image Mode, Grayscale, and it's going to ask me to flatten. I'm going to tell it, don't flatten. Discard color. Okay, we talked about brightness, contrast. I want my darkest shadows to be as dark as their shadows. They've got some really black shadows, so I want mine to be really black. That's some good brightness contrast right there. I might want my jeans to be darker, like their pants are, so let me go to my dodge tool. That's pretty good. I'm going to erase around myself, and I think I want my feathering on this lasso tool to be 0.5. It's going to make it blurry a little bit, but not too much. So let me zoom in. Ooh, that might be too much. Let me start erasing. I took this picture on a particularly sunny day. It is always important, if you want your picture to look realistic, to get the shadows right. So what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to make a shadow layer. And this is pretty easy on a black and white picture. I'm just going to do black. And I'm going to trace around approximately where my shadow should be. That should be my head. Here is the drawing board. It goes under my shoe, under this shoe. And now with the paint bucket tool, I can make a black shadow. Now the shadow should be under me, and the shadow should not be that dark. So by lowering the opacity, I think my shadow is just as dark as everybody else's standing in this picture. Now obviously, I want to erase around this. All right, there's my shadows. Now you guys are smart. You've probably noticed there's some things in this photo that are blocking me. So what I need to do is I need to start erasing those. This guy is standing in front of my shadow, so I need to delete any shadow that crosses his path. On top of that, I need to erase around President Lincoln's sleeve. He should be standing in front of me. I don't know where this guy's body starts or ends, so I need to lower my opacity and come over here. Now I can see where his arm is, his sleeve, his hand. Anything inside his body should be erased. And on top of that, there is a rope holding up the tent. So let me grab my eraser tool, make sure it's in brush mode. Size 7 looks pretty good. I think if I hold the brush here and hold down Shift, it should erase where I want it to. Get my opacity back to 100%. Oh my gosh, it looks like I'm standing there in the Civil War. Doesn't look like I'm particularly drawing President Lincoln, but that's okay. One last thing I should do. I should go down to my shadow and blur it. That's one of the new criteria for this assignment that was not in last week's assignment. I need to go to my shadow layer, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I need to make sure that my shadow is blurry. And even if you are looking at this picture, you can tell these people are pretty blurry. So if I go to the layer that I'm on, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, that's a little too blurry. The men in the background are blurry. Oh gosh, 2 pixels. I think that's pretty good, kids. I'm gonna call this one done. Photobombing a historical picture. Okay, so let's grade this real quick on a 30-point system. Did I do feathering? Yes, 5 out of 5. Did I get the size right? Yes, 5 out of 5. Did I get the color balance right? Well, it's black and white, so yeah, I'd say yes, 5 out of 5. The brightness contrast. Are my black shadows as black as the background characters? Yes, 5 out of 5. Did I make my picture blurry? Yes, 5 out of 5. Did I add a shadow to the background? Yes, 5 out of 5. For a grand total of 30 out of 30, this is what a 100A will look like. On to the next one. We have a photo of workers on the Empire State Building taken in 1932, roughly 60 years after the end of the Civil War. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. 12 years later, in February 1945, the Allied leaders of World War II got together for the Yalta Conference, and they made their final plans to defeat Germany. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. Also in February 1945, we've got Marines raising the American flag on Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. In August of 1945, the Allied forces won and defeated the Japanese on what is known as Victory in Japan Day, VJ Day, in Times Square. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. In 1948, Babe Ruth gave a stirring speech at the 25th anniversary of Yankee Stadium. All the photographers lined up along the first baseline except for one who decided to take this photo from behind. And that's what makes this photo so iconic. I'm going to insert myself in front and use my camera phone. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. Also in 1948, we have a photo of flying cats and levitating chairs. It's a photo of surrealist painter Salvador Dali. I think I can add myself jumping in the background. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. 17 years later, in 1965, we have an iconic sports photo of boxer Muhammad Ali. I think I can easily photobomb this picture like this. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. 4 years after the Muhammad Ali picture, in July of 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first human to walk on the face of the moon. I can easily add myself to this iconic picture. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. And a month later, there's a famous photo and album cover of the Beatles crossing Abbey Road. I can add myself to that easily like this. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. The Titanic sank in April of 1912, and it was not discovered until technology caught up in 1985. Here is a photo of a submersible finding the Titanic of 1985. I can easily put myself into this picture like this. Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. Moving on to the next one. And this isn't a historical picture, but since I'm underwater, why not swim with a shark? Feathering, check. Size, check. Color balance, check. Brightness and contrast, check. Is it the appropriate blurry? Check. Did I add a shadow in the right place in the right direction? Check. And all of these photos can be found on the Canvas assignment page. Make sure you save it as a JPEG, export it as a JPEG, send it to me in Canvas. See you next time. Bye.